Today is June 19th, Juneteenth, not a day of comfort, a day of truth, a day of remembrance, a day that reminds us that freedom delayed is freedom denied. And today we are coming to you live from the White House lawn here in Washington, D.C., broadcasting across the Good Network and inside the Good's virtual world. Think about that for a moment. A student in Baltimore, a single mother in Atlanta, a father in Chicago, a family in Los Angeles, an entrepreneur in Miami, someone sitting in their living room anywhere in the world, all standing here together, not physically, but virtually, learning together, growing together, building together, because access changes everything. And that is exactly why the goods exist. For too long, knowledge has been trapped behind geography, behind tuition, behind gatekeepers, behind who you know. But today, through virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and community, we are proving something our ancestors could only dream about. The ability to place the same lesson, the same opportunity, and the same conversation in front of everyone at the exact same time. Because freedom without access is incomplete, and access without understanding is wasted. And as America approaches its 250th birthday, I believe there is a question that still lives quietly in millions of homes across this nation. A question many people have asked but few have answered. Was this system ever built for us? Because when many people hear words like life insurance, trust, wealth planning, and financial protection, they do not immediately think opportunity. They think exclusion. They think gatekeepers. They think systems that historically did not always welcome them. And if we are going to tell the truth on Juneteenth, then we must tell the whole truth. Long before insurance became a modern industry, merchants searched for ways to protect themselves from uncertainty. More than 2,000 years ago, traders used a practice called bottomry. A ship owner could borrow money for a voyage, and if the ship was lost at sea, the debt disappeared. If the ship arrived safely, the debt was repaid. Human beings were trying to answer the same question then that we are trying to answer now. How do we protect what we have built? Centuries later, merchants gathered in a coffee house owned by Edward Lloyd in London. They exchanged information. They shared risk. They created agreements. Those conversations eventually became Lloyd's of London. One of the most influential insurance marketplaces in history began not in a skyscraper. It began in conversation, people helping people solve uncertainty. But history is complicated. Financial systems created opportunity for some and barriers for others. Many black families entered freedom with no inherited wealth, no trusts, no estates, no generational safety nets. Then came segregation, redlining, predatory lending, underappraised homes, limited access to capital, generations of families forced to build while carrying weights others never had to carry. So if some people are skeptical of financial institutions, that skepticism did not appear out of thin air. History explains it. But history cannot become an excuse because the most important question in 2026 is no longer, was the system built for us? The question is, what are we going to do with the tools available to us today? Because our ancestors fought too hard for us to inherit freedom and then refused to learn how to use it. I have come to believe that one of the greatest tragedies in America is not that opportunity was hidden. It is that when many finally gained access to it, nobody explained how it worked. Imagine fighting your way to the front door of freedom only to discover nobody left you a map. Imagine finally being allowed to own property, but nobody teaches you how to protect it. Imagine finally being allowed to build wealth, but nobody teaches you how to preserve it. Imagine finally being allowed to leave a legacy, but nobody teaches you how to structure it. That is the challenge before us today. Not intelligence, not ability. Translation. The language of wealth was never translated for millions of families, so we built good wealth. Not to create more complexity, to remove it, not to create more paperwork, to create more clarity, not to tell people what to buy, to help them understand where they are going. Because most families do not want to become insurance experts. Most families do not want to become tax strategists. Most families do not want to become trust attorneys. They simply want answers to four questions. Will my family be okay? Can I build something? Can I protect what I build? Can I leave something behind? And that is why we created four simple paths: good start, Good business, good cushion, good legacy, not products, not policies, not labels, stages of freedom. The first stage is good start, because the first act of freedom is protection. A family cannot dream if it is constantly surviving. A family cannot build if every storm threatens to wipe it away. A family cannot focus on tomorrow if it is terrified of today. Good Start says protect what matters. Make sure one tragedy does not become two. The return is peace of mind. The return is stability. The return is knowing your family can stand even if you are no longer there to hold them up. The second stage is good business because the second act of freedom is ownership. For generations, our communities mastered labor. Now we must master ownership because labor pays bills. Ownership changes bloodlines. Ownership creates options. Ownership creates opportunity. Ownership turns effort into equity. Good business says, create more than income. Build something that can outlive your next paycheck. The return is opportunity. The return is ownership. The return is freedom to choose. The third stage is good cushion, and this is where many families begin thinking differently. Good cushion is not simply about accumulation. It is about flexibility. It is about control. It is about having access when opportunity appears. Because sophisticated families ask a different question. Not how much can I make, but how much can I keep? How much survives taxes? How much survives inflation? How much survives uncertainty? How much survives market volatility? Because true sovereignty is not simply about what you earn. It is about what survives. It is about building assets in environments that can provide protection from taxation, protection from volatility, and protection from the storms that inevitably come. Because true strength is not what you earn during sunshine. True strength is what survives the storm. And this is where many families get stuck. They think they must choose between protection and growth, between insurance and investing, between today and tomorrow. But that is a false choice because the goal is not to put families into boxes. The goal is to create a path. Many families begin with good start, then move into good business, then build a good cushion, and eventually create a good legacy. These are not labels, they are milestones, a roadmap, a progression. The fourth stage is good legacy, because there comes a point when the question is no longer what can I earn, the question becomes what will still exist because I was here. A scholarship, a youth center, a ministry, a community program, a foundation, a mission, a family prepared to continue the work. But let me be clear, a check is not a legacy. A payout is not a legacy. A legacy requires structure, because leaving wealth to an unprepared beneficiary is not always a blessing. Sometimes it becomes confusion. Sometimes it becomes conflict. Sometimes it becomes a legal headache. That is why ownership matters. That is why beneficiary designations matter. That is why structure matters. Because the goal is not simply to transfer wealth. The goal is to transfer wisdom. The goal is not simply to leave money. The goal is to leave direction. And that is what makes good wealth different. Most financial companies begin with products. We begin with purpose. Most companies ask what you qualify for. We ask where you want to go. Most companies begin with paperwork. We begin with people. And then we use systems to do the heavy lifting. Technology handles the calculations. Technology handles the analysis. Technology handles the complexity. Whether that is through the goods virtual world, the good network, or the tools we continue building to serve families. So our advisors can focus on what matters most, the relationship, the guidance, the human being sitting across the table. Because people do not need more information, they need more understanding. And as we stand here today, on Juneteenth, on the lawn of the White House, approaching the 250th birthday of this nation, I believe we have a responsibility to honor those who fought for access by actually using the access they secured, a responsibility to stop confusing survival with freedom, a responsibility to stop confusing income with wealth, a responsibility to stop confusing movement with progress. I dream of a day when no family loses a home because a parent lacked protection. I dream of a day when ownership becomes normal in every community. I dream of a day when every family has a cushion strong enough to survive the storm. I dream of a day when every child inherits not only assets, but understanding. I dream of a day when every family understands that protection is not fear. Protection is preparation. Protection is love. Protection is responsibility. Protection is power. And I dream of a day when legacy is no longer reserved for the wealthy, but available to every family willing to learn, build, protect, and teach. Because Juneteenth is not merely a reminder of what was delayed, it is a reminder of what is now possible. History explains the challenge. Knowledge reveals the path. Action changes the outcome. Learn, protect, teach, because protection is power. Every family, every community, every future. My name is Rahdric C, founder of Good Wealth, and on this Juneteenth, I challenge you to stop asking whether the door was built for you and start asking what you will build now that it is open. And you just got the goods from the goods. Good night.